So, hello everybody. Thanks for making the time today. I really appreciate that from my side, and I'm sure that today you'll get a nice introduction to the AWS startup programs, as well as how to use the startup programs, whether you're in B2B or B2C. Um, During this talk, I will share the many reasons why startups build on AWS and how to successfully partner with Amazon to become the next big thing. We've been helping startups build for over 13 years, and we've been essentially the preferred cloud provider for startups since the beginning. Startups such as Airbnb, Epic Games with Fortnite, startups who's done IPOs like Netflix, even helping the dating scene with Tinder. In Cape Town, I can mention Data Profit, Aerobotics, Take Control, OneCart, Custos, Luno, to name a few. These startups started with AWS with their first line of code and the first of hopefully many delighted customers. Whether you are a startup in ideation or deployment or reaching for scale, AWS have programs tailored for you. My name is Andrew Zitzman, and I come from over 20 years of working in information technology. Before I left the enterprise world in 2015 to build my own agri-tech startup, I ran commercial, technical, dev, and delivery operations in ICT all over Africa, where I managed many programs focused on telecoms, prepaid, VAS, regionally for Nigeria, Ghana, Kenya, and the rest of Africa. I share my background because I am just one of the many members of the startup team here at Amazon with both extensive startup experience, interested in sharing knowledge and expertise with you. There's a reason why for the past 13 years, startups overwhelmingly prefer AWS. Go ask the most successful startups in your market, and the majority of them are using AWS. These startups select AWS for a collection of reasons. First, we understand startups. We know what the challenges are. We started as a startup back in 1996 and continue to operate like one today. We have dedicated startup business development teams comprising of ex-startup founders, former investors, angels, even startup executives. The team works closely with all the top VCs, accelerators, incubators around the globe. These are startup experts who understand developing business plans, approaches to user acquisition, marketing at early stages, and what a good pitch deck looks like, and know how to build fast. Second, we have developed a number of programs here at Amazon to help you engage with not just the millions of customers on AWS, but also the millions of shoppers on Amazon.com. Programs to help you tap into marketplaces, partner networks, credits, business support, and more, which I'll tell you more about shortly. Third, startups choose AWS because we offer the broadest technology capabilities. And the tech we provide gives startups an advantage in a market where they believe their ideas and speed of execution will give them an advantage over competitors. Today, we have over 175 different services. No idea is too big for an early stage startup to tackle. Whether you're processing billions of events a day, ingesting data from satellites using AWS Ground Station, or deploying millions of IoT devices into farming industry, for example, with AWS IoT Core. These services all let you go from an idea to market in record time. Let's talk about the technology. The way startups compete today is on quickest time to market, keeping your costs low and continuing to innovate on behalf of your customers. Because of the pay-as-you-go pricing of AWS, startups do not have to estimate how much computing resources to provision and pay upfront for computing infrastructure. Instead, with AWS, startups can pay only for the resources they use, much like you would for utility, such as electricity. AWS on-demand infrastructure allows startups to spin up computing resources in a matter of minutes, with just a few clicks of a mouse instead of weeks or even months that it would have taken to set up hardware. This increases the agility of startups, and speed is critical in business. Thanks to the cost and efficiency benefits of the cloud, startups are able to experiment often and fail fast with lower risk. Startups disrupt and innovate by essentially testing a series of hypotheses. Their hypotheses are not always right, and their ideas may fail. But the advantage they have with cloud computing is that they can experiment at small scale and in multiple iterations without risking upfront investments you're making servers or owning ongoing payments if you decide to deprovision servers. The ultimate benefit in this is that experimenting often will also increase the likelihood of finding the right direction for success. All this ultimately means is that startups can focus on your core business, not operating the infrastructure and the services underlying. I mentioned in order to be competitive and to move quickly enough to get the first mover advantage, you need to be leveraging the latest tech. So we work closely with companies of all sizes to continue to innovate on behalf on their needs as well. To understand what the biggest obstacles organizations face when developing products, and we build services to help solve them. Every time we create a new service, whether it's a Fortune 500 company or an upcoming startup, all our customers get access to that new capability. This continues to put new technology in your hands each and every day. This means that the smallest startup can build with the exact same technology that the largest Fortune 500 company in the world use. AWS has completely leveled the playing field and lowered the barrier for entry for startups to compete in industries which traditionally may have been nearly impossible to enter. What's also very unique about AWS is the pace at which we put these capabilities in your hand. On average, last year alone, we released more than 5 new features each and every day. While you can't predict what challenges you may face in the future and how your company may pivot, you can be assured we're constantly working on providing solutions to solve the world's problems. That's how we've developed the broadest and deepest cloud platform available today. Whether you're looking to create and run virtual reality, augmented reality, and 3D applications quickly and easily using, for example, Amazon Sumerian, or perhaps you want to ingest, buffer, and process streaming data in real time, so you can derive insights in seconds or minutes. You can use Amazon's Kinesis. These services all provide the building blocks to build any imaginable industry. Of course, machine learning and artificial intelligence are a big topic. And as data continues to play a more important role in our companies compete, we have a wide range of offerings from core raw services for advanced data scientists, but we're not all data scientists. We have environments such as SageMaker, a service that will help you build, train, deploy a machine learning model. If you don't have any machine learning experience, you can tap into one of the many of our AI services that will help your product hear, speak, translate, comprehend, and make predictions with simple API calls. These new services over the past certain years have had a big impact on how business operate today. So when we began in 2006, we could never have predicted the outcome. In 2005, it cost almost $500,000 to build an MVP. That's for the servers, that's for the environment, that's for managing it. By 2010, we've launched Elastic Compute, databases RDS, storage S3, and CloudFront. And the cost dramatically dropped to $50,000. Today, we are seeing startups launch with just a few $1,000s. These are startups who are able to keep the operational costs so low that some companies stay completely bootstrapped, never needing to take funding. I've talked to startups who become profitable in less than a year and who are running everything as a one-person shop. These are companies that have millions of customers. If they tried to build these businesses years ago, it just would not have been possible. So let's talk about an example. Startups like Uphail. Yes, it's not from here, but it's out of New York City. It was one-person shop that built essentially the kayak of ground transportation. Uphail is used by millions of users to compare prices on Uber, Lyft, taxis, carpools, scooters, bike sharing, public transits, and more. It's been featured quite widely, even in Fox News and VentureBeat. Uphail was founded by one person and still operates with one employee. The founder built this at the free AWS Loft in New York City, which is one of the many co-working spaces that startups can join. The initial version of Uphill scaled poorly and was subject to frequent outages. By attending the workshops, by attending the Startup Academy, for example, at AWS, by joining free office hours, the founder basically modernized towards a tier 3 application, which means he separated the database from the server front end and the web front end as well. And that meant that they could scale a bit better. The founder continued to join these free sessions, for example, a session like today, and has basically modernized now into serverless. Serverless means that it can infinitely scale the various functions that is requiring to move forward. Plus, also, he only needs to pay for the code that he spins up, not the servers doing nothing. Another really cool startup, a bit closer to home, is Pineapple. Pineapple is a Joburg-based insurance tech. I've been working with, we've built a peer-to-peer insurance platform with a small engineering team. The cool thing about these guys is they migrated off Roku, teaching themselves different AWS cloud services. Today, they've got over 35,000 customers, and recently spoke at our startup day in Johannesburg, which is on YouTube if you want to have a look at that, about how exactly they built that platform. It's examples like Uphill and Pineapple, which demonstrates how AWS changed not only how startups build, but also the strategy and how venture capital firms are investing. So Harvard Business School did a study from 2006 to 2010 to see how this impacted on how startups develop. It means basically that venture firms and angels can invest in more startups, smaller ticket sizes. So what happens when a venture firm does not need to invest $500,000, but only $5,000? Well, it means that the technical due diligence is going to be much easier for a startup. And the VC firms understands the AWS platform. So here's the startup page. It's not surprising that you'll probably recognize quite a few names on there. You've got Convoy transforming the transportation trucking industries, $800 billion industry that they've created. Coinbase building the world's largest Bitcoin exchange, handling over 150 billion in transactions. But then, of course, if you look closer to home, you've got Aerobotics that's helping on the insurtech, but specifically in agri-tech, using drone technology to understand the yield on farms. Another example here is Ayala Credit, basically banking out of Nigeria. Of course, we all know Airbnb. A good example also is Cloud One Mobi, based in Cape Town. They've revolutionized the retail industry for the SME, the small, medium-sized enterprise. How do you actually keep inventory intact? How do you know what is the next best thing that you have to order to be able to sell? Because there's a heat wave coming, for example. They've given that tech into essentially the small, medium-sized industries. We've talked about Coinbase. I think another one that's really cool is obviously Pineapple. You've got Kidigo, you've got Luno. Luno is basically the Bitcoin platform. They've recently been bought by a digital currency exchange. One like FilePounder is more in the SaaS tech. They've renamed quite recently, but they basically help the mainframe platforms connect into the modern world, etc. You've got I Love Zuna. Sendi is also a nice one from from Kenya. Sendi basically realized that there's a need for anyone to be able to move their homes, like your bed and your fridge, to a new location, but there's no Stafford van lines. So if you use a Sendi, you basically get a truck that comes to your site, moves your items to the new location, plus it includes insurance as well. I mean, that's just a few of the examples, and we can go on quite a bit in that. So the other important thing is also, AWS has the largest community of builders. With such a large community, it's going to be much easier to make the right technical hires for your company. It's very important to have that access to tech pool, because when you wake up at night, you need access to resources. For example, you can see that we've got more than 1,000 meetups, 75,000 users on Reddit. I mean, you can read through all that. So there's a very strong community that's very good for founders to have access to this community. I think the cool thing also is GitHub repositories, more than 170,000 if you want to speed up development and deployment. So now let's talk about the programs. Yes, there's quite a few. The first thing to realize is that if you're heading for funding, you probably will have to do technical due diligence. That's talking about how you're building your platform, how do you scale your platform, what is the security involved, and what we've done is we've created an online well-architected framework. It's based on 5 pillars: operational excellence, security, reliability, performance, efficiency, and cost optimization. And you can literally go online and do that in 3 hours for your platform, whether you're on AWS or not. The good thing about this is the venture community understands the well-architected framework. So they understand when you submit that as an attachment to your investment requirement. And it looks very good in terms of how you're planning your future. It's very important because it also helps you understand how to reduce costs in the cloud going forward. Another thing is more for the B2B kind of startup. As a B2B founder myself, it was really difficult to build and also meet the top enterprises. So we've got a marketplace. It means that you can sell through the marketplace your SaaS technology to B2B. A good example would be somebody like Snap ADC out of Cape Town doing something really boring called DevOps. They basically leveraged the marketplace, deployed in the marketplace, and they sold into MTV and NASA straight out of Cape Town. Obviously, they're growing quite well as well. So if you know about these new channels of sales, you can definitely make a success of going global. If you're building something, we have something called Launchpad. Let's say you build a cup that's got IoT in it or something like that. Launchpad means that you can basically promote your product online. You can sell to the retail. The thing with a startup that's building something is that you got to keep a very close track on your cost in terms of you can't really fill up all the warehouses in the world. So with the Launchpad, you get up to like a month to be able to fulfill that order from an order point of view. But you also get marketing and that kind of support out of Amazon Launchpad. So keep that in mind if you're attaching your platform into something physical as well. There's a fund, it's called the Alexa Fund. Alexa Fund is anything that's voice enabled. And it might not be applicable for you now, but we really believe that voice enablement is one of the top growing industries. So what you can do is you can join the Amazon Alexa Fund, and from the Alexa Fund, you can effectively either get investment or you can also get additional tech resources to do voice enablement, the technology side of things. So keep that in mind, it's available online. There's something called AWS Activate, and through SICE 2020, you've basically gotten access to that. You should have received an email with 2 instructions. One is a URL where you can sign up for basically the Activate as well as the gain the benefits. The benefits include usage on the cloud, up to $5,000 for 2 years, plus also tech support. I think that's really important, the tech support aspect. But of course, once you're on the AWS Activate environment, you get access to the Activate console. Activate console will make proposals for you in terms of what kind of services or tech might actually add your startup value to your startup as well. So really consider that from that point of view. Something that I also really love is one of my favorite programs, actually, is Startup Spotlight. What I do is I basically understand what you're offering, what is unique from your offering, and then we do a PR story. We pay for the PR story based on what you're doing today. The idea being that it gives you access to another free resource, which is basically marketing and PR support. Of course, to do that, it's very important that security is always number one. So please do complete stuff like the well-architected framework, which gives that confidence in terms of the platform is ready for scaling. A good example, I can share a few links afterwards of PR. I've done about 40 PR stories during the last 12 months. I housed Rowana Maton, a female founder up in Joburg, building an online retail community. She's really leveraged that program for Startup Spotlight very well, because obviously she's in the consumer side of things, and marketing costs can be quite expensive. So, in a nutshell, I really hope to see you on this page. It's called the Startup Canvas. You can actually nominate yourself online to be featured on this page. And the good thing with that is, the team that I represent, all being entrepreneurs, we go around the world and we do present also to investors and VCs and so on. So it would be good for you to be on a page like that. So in a nutshell, we understand startups. We've got programs to help you, scale. also build on AWS. And we've also got a very nice broad set of services. As I mentioned, more than 175 services that's available for you from day one to basically deploy and scale going forward. Very important as well is more than 100 online education courses available for your dev community or yourself in terms of how to build an AWS and how to build RDS and all these kind of technology aspects. But we also have a startup academy now that's available, explaining very essentially all the programs we talked about now in more detail. So once you join to Activate, you get access to all this additional resources as well. So here is some of the resources. I'll share that a little bit later with you, but definitely head over to the Startups on Air. You can get an example of all the PR that we do for startups, short interviews, explaining what you're building, and it goes viral, basically. The Well-Architected Framework, highly recommended, and so on. So that was just me from my side, and I hope we can open up for questions now. Thank you.
Hi.
Cool.
My name is Makosi.
Nice. Hi.
I'm a co-founder of a startup called Afrobotics. So we are in the stage where we want to build APIs and user interfaces. However, we really don't have experience there. We are engineers by training, not software
Okay, that's
developers.
good.
So we've built the back end, the libraries that we need to use for our software solution. However, the APIs is a little is an issue for us. Do you guys have sort of like templates or like proper APIs where we can just feed in input and get an output and not have to build it from scratch?
Yeah, exactly. A good example of that is actually called the Amazon API Gateway. It's built for this purpose, but also we've got the AWS Glue that will help you expose those APIs on a structured way. Yes, we have. I didn't mention that earlier. We've got cloud formation templates, which will help you build out that infrastructure very quickly. And then, of course, what you can do is then connect the various services together. So why don't you just maybe ping me afterwards, and then I can put you in contact with the right person to help you with that journey.
Thank you so much.
Cool.
Pleasure.
Thanks, Henry. So just a quick one, I think, just for everyone, because I think there were a few queries about how to actually redeem the credits. It seems some of the startups had some issues there, so maybe we can start from there,
Okay.
and then go on to include what is offered in the AWS SaaS credits. And then I see there's a few questions as well. So we'll move on to those. So let's start from the very beginning.
No, that's cool. So post the event, you received a email with a URL, a sign-up URL. It will take you to a destination website. And then what you have to do there is basically put in an AWS account ID. You can open a free one online. But then also there's something unique. It's called the AWS org ID. That's a very unique ID, and that's a secret code where through you can apply. Now, what happens is, once you've applied, within about 2 or 3 days, it's approved or it's vetted. And what that means is you will get onto your AWS account the Activate benefits, which is $5,000 of AWS usage, but also technical support. Now, the way these credits work is, in this case, $5,000 plus then the tech support, right? If you had $5,000 already from another program, then this won't add up. So what you will then have to do is look at different kind of startup programs, to like accelerators like Startup Bootcamp, Techstars, Y Combinator, etc., where there's additional resources as well as Activate and so on. So just in a nutshell, there's a URL and an org ID, and you can sign up for that, but you need an AWS account ID to do that.
So, okay, so there's, I think so. There's a question here that says it asks for credit card details. So I think that's where people are stumbling a bit.
Yeah, exactly. So you have to be able to obviously pay for usage that is not covered in credits. So in other words, you need a mechanism for that, and that is the credit card today. You could change that to invoice billing, but then that you need to do through the console, asking, for invoice billing. But you have to open up a free account. To open a free account, you do need a credit card.
Thanks. Okay, one of the questions here is, what does tech support entail for a startup using the AWS Activate credits?
Yeah, so that's really cool. So basically, let's say you've deployed the credits, you'll see the usage credits and you'll see the tech support also credits, right, for a certain period up to a year. And what that means is you can open up the console, AWS console, which is the environment that you can spin up your services in, and you can click on business support, which means in 15 minutes, you're going to get an answer to a question that you might have 24/7 during those credits. You can always, obviously, later upgrade to higher kind of support kind of packages, but in the initial activate, you've already got access to business support. Really useful when you've got a tech that needs to do something right now and it needs help in doing that. Because you won't find me 24/7